Here's the brief news from the world over this week. Jihadi terrorism has once again struck the United States. On Tuesday, 8 were killed and another 12 injured when Uzbek immigrant Sayfullo Saipov sped down a lower Manhattan bike path in a rented truck for nearly a mile. Saipov was shot and disarmed. He exited the vehicle brandishing 2 air guns and yelling, "Allahu Akbar." Federal prosecutors on Wednesday brought terrorism charges against the 29-year-old. He's the father of 3. They claimed that he was consumed by hate and radicalized online. President Donald Trump condemned the attack and said Saipov should get the death penalty. He also renewed his call to reform migrant programs that allow potential terrorists into the United States.
We will never waver in the defense of our beloved country, ever. And we'll never, ever forget the beautiful lives that have been taken from us. That was a horrible event, and we have to stop it, and we have to stop it cold.
More on this in our next segment. And details of the Republican tax reform plan were revealed in the House of Representatives on Thursday. Among the highlights, the proposal reduces the popular mortgage interest reduction for newly purchased homes at up to $500,000. That's down from the current $1 million cap. It also limits the deductibility of local property taxes to $10,000 and eliminates the deduction for state income taxes, in spite of opposition from Republicans in high-tax states. The $4,000 per-child exemption would be repealed. However, the per-child tax credit will increase from $1,000 to $1,600. In spite of the rumors to the contrary, the plan will leave intact 401k retirement accounts. As previously reported, the Republican plan would double the standard deduction used by most average Americans to $12,000 for individuals and $24,000 for families. It shrinks the number of tax brackets from 7 to 3 or 4. And the tax system would be simplified, with most people being able to file their returns on a postcard. The plan also meets President Trump's demand that corporate tax rates be slashed. The president said this week that he would like the plan on his desk for signature by Christmas. And Christian leaders around the world are commemorating the 500th anniversary of the Reformation. On October 31st, 1517, German monk Martin Luther submitted the 95 Theses to his archbishop by nailing a copy to the door of a church. The act sparked the movement that divided Western Christianity. In a joint statement, the Vatican and the Lutheran World Federation marked the end of a year-long ecumenical commemoration. They stressed their mutual bonds despite their past history. The Vatican also issued a commemorative stamp for the anniversary, depicting Martin Luther and a fellow reformer at the foot of the crucified Christ. Elsewhere, the Archbishop of Canterbury, Justin Welby, acknowledged the historical changes triggered by Luther, but also noted the Reformation's dark side, which included, he said, individualism, division, cruelty, and war. Metropolitan Hilarion, the chief ecumenical spokesman for the Russian Orthodox Church, said the anniversary is not an occasion to rejoice and triumph because any split in Christianity is an offense against God's will. Nevertheless, he stressed all Christians are united by faith in Christ. And a former chief of the U.S. Bishops' Committee on Doctrine is calling on Pope Francis to end the, quote, chronic confusion he feels the Pope is causing within the Church. A July 31st letter from Capuchin Father Thomas Weinandy to the Pope was made public this week. In it, the priest charges that, in addition to sowing confusion, Francis is demeaning the importance of doctrine and causing the faithful to lose confidence in their supreme shepherd. Father Weinandy told Crux News this week that he alone is responsible for the letter, and he wrote it in a spirit of fraternal concern for Pope Francis and the Universal Church. Weinandy serves on the Vatican's International Theological Commission and until this week was still a consultant to the USCCB's Committee on Doctrine, a post from which he was made to resign following the release of his letter. We'll discuss the letter and dialogue with Bishop Robert Morlino later in the program. And after just a few short weeks, Christians in Iraq's Nineveh plain are again fleeing their homes. The faithful, who had only recently returned home after the defeat of ISIS, are again on the move as Kurdish Peshmerga fighters have clashed with Iraqi government forces there. Approximately 1,000 families have evacuated the Christian town of Teleskov. Chaldean Catholic primate Louis Raphael Sacco denounced the new wave of violence, saying there is a renewed atmosphere of anxiety and fear among Christians in the region. He also noted that some Christian towns are still empty, as homes and infrastructure remain damaged in the wake of the war with the Islamic State. Meanwhile, the recent Trump administration announcement that it plans to provide direct aid to persecuted Christians in the Middle East is being met with praise by some within the church. This past week, Vice President Mike Pence told those gathered at a conference in D.C. that the U.S. State Department would stop funding ineffective UN aid programs. Instead, the U.S. Agency for International Development would provide support to churches and groups on the ground who are already helping communities persecuted by ISIS. USAID officials have since clarified they'll continue to work with proven UN partners. The Knights of Columbus, which has been one of the leaders in providing aid to the persecuted Christians, support the move. Supreme Knight Carl Anderson told the National Catholic Register that the Knights have been urging direct humanitarian assistance for the persecuted for months. However, the U.S. Bishops' charity organization, Catholic Relief Services, has withheld its support for the Trump pledge, saying they need some more time to figure out what the decision means. The Vatican has declined to comment on the matter. And the University of Notre Dame has dropped its coverage for birth control for its employees and students. Last month, the Trump administration removed the Obama-era mandate that even religiously affiliated employers include birth control coverage in their health insurance plans. Faculty and staff will be cut off on December 31st, students in August of 2018. Notre Dame has long opposed the mandate, but did not take its objections to court as other institutions did. Instead, the school offered contraceptives through a third party in order to comply with federal regulations. And this just in, the Pope is opening the door for the consideration of married priests. According to a report by an Austrian news agency, the Pope has asked that the issue be added to the agenda for the upcoming Synod on the Amazon. Retired Bishop of Brazil, Erwin Krautler, was reportedly asked by Francis in 2014 to come up with, quote, courageous proposals with regard to the question of married priests. This Bishop Krautler told reporters that the Pope once again requested valid proposals on the matter. Currently, married Catholic priests are only allowed in some cases among former Anglican ministers and the Catholic Eastern Rite churches. We'll keep our eye on that story.